So I'm going to say something that's going to make me sound like a fucking whale.
So disappointed right now.
This is the worst day ever in Garrett Corner history. What is going on, chat? This is the Student Review Morning Show. Yours truly and High Stakes Alex. This is your favourite combination. Let's bring Luke into the call. So Luke is the 50NL player whose hands we're reviewing today. So let's just bring him in and introduce him.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing?
Awesome, I'm doing well. Good morning, guys.
Hello.
So I've been taking poker seriously for a couple of years now. I started in sort of January 2022. Since then, I've been playing mostly 25NL and 50NL reg tables.
Yeah, so you're probably a pretty good player. That's my guess. But all right, I guess we'll see. Well, I mean, you might be terrible. We'll find out.
Well, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I think most of these hands I'm reasonably happy with.
No, you're meant to send us hands that you're deeply ashamed of, not ones that you're happy with.
Well, there's a couple that I am not happy with, so we'll see.
When we have like a good player on this kind of show, it's always a bit like anticlimactic. Like I remember Akshar saying the other day was like, no, get someone that's fucking shit. Like it's way better when they're shit. I was like,
that's so true. Yeah, that's 100% true.
Ace Jack, open, very small, 3-bet. Anything you know about this when you see this, look?
So this is probably a rec. Their stats didn't suggest that, but I guess it's possible it's a misclick, but very, very likely this is a recreational player.
Yeah. So we call Jack 7-5. They go small. What do you make of this?
Given that it's probably a rec, this is likely to be mostly weak, basically. Bet size equals hand strength. So probably awesome. 7x, 5x, weak jacks, some draws, and then some random stuff as well.
I agree with what's been said so far. Small size is like indicating a weak hand, although that's, I think, a little less true on the flop, but still somewhat true.
Yep. So I think raise already here is really attractive. We have a nice, cleaning, thick value hand that has quite a high investment ceiling against this line. I also think it's unlikely that people who 3 big blind to flop and are doing bet size equals hand strength and are just like nitty recreationals are going to like start bluffing you on the turn. You have to understand that like in GTO when call is chosen, sometimes that's because it expects to face, you know, aggression from the bottom of villain's range on turn or river that wouldn't happen if that would go away, that would fold if you raise flops. So I think I'm already just leaning towards raise here, to be honest.
Yeah, I prefer raising to calling. Mm-hmm. The board is extremely dynamic, and yeah, you wanna raise for sure a lot against recreationals when you've got a high equity hand against mergy weirdness on dynamic boards.
I think that's a really good rule. And I think you said it yourself, look, like the bet size equals hand strength thing is just so like prevalent here. It's just such a relevant data point. And when you're in game here, I think it's easy to get weirded out when there's actually, this sounds really silly, but like when the money is actually at stake, like when you're in the heat of battle, it's easier to like fear the top of the range more than it is out of game, where you can see it more in the cold light of day and be like, well, this is a thick value raise. Villain checks turn. Any thoughts here, Luke?
I don't think my hand is strong enough to value bet at this point. And obviously it has a lot of showdown value, so not betting.
What if we bet third pot just to 1 clean, 2 because we think villain's range is really capped, 3 because we think villain's going to bet a king plus most of the time, and 4 because kind of just, I don't want to, Alex, I'm going to say something that's going to make me sound like a fucking whale. I nearly said take control. God, what do I mean, Alex? Help me out here. Why am I entertaining 1/3 here? What am I doing?
I couldn't tell you because I don't like 1/3 at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think this range is like very capped, and I just think your hand is better than it looks like, and I don't think you're going to get check raised at any frequency really at all in this spot by a rec that's been using the sizing scheme. So while in theory I'm sure this is just a check, I think 1/3 is actually like exploitatively not that bad. But okay.
I think you're underestimating the chances of getting check raised by A, spew, and B, flushes. And random like aces that feels horrible now.
I think if I get check raised, I just fold. I'm just like dead, like in this spot against someone that's taking a sizing scheme. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I just feel that this is a very passive looking player, and if I was ever check raised here, I think I would be like really dead. But yeah, maybe I'm burning a bit of extra money. Maybe we can value bet rivers. There are some cards that mean that we can't value bet rivers. There's some hands in villain's range, like ace queen, that might peel here, pocket pair with diamond that might peel 1 that we just don't get any value from on a lot of rivers. So I just think there's some urgency for 1/3ing here. I don't think it's like necessarily better. I don't dismiss it as outright ridiculous, I don't think. Checking back's definitely the standard play. I just think our hand is better than it looks in this spot against these clues of players so far.
Yeah. And my inclination would be to take that piece of information and use it to determine that you can 75% pot this river if you get a relatively Ricky card, as we do, and then we face a half pot bet. Okay, well, all right, Luke, what are we thinking facing half pot?
I think I'm snapping. They 3-bet pre and the board's somewhat dicey, but they've checked the turn, so it's scattered aggression and it's recreational. We need to win 25% of the time. I think we're easily hitting that.
And what do you think about raising?
I'm not trying to make a rec fold a good hand here. I think maybe that's reasonable versus a reg, but I'm not doing that.
I was actually sort of asking about raising for value, but yeah, no, I agree. I think call is better.
Yeah, okay, so he has ace king this time. This seems like a fine hand. Jack 8.
This hand's bad.
Yes, look, let's go.
All right, let's see it.
Let's shred.
Okay, so the 3x sizing preflop indicates to me we're against a recreational, which means I want to be 3-betting a lot more. Although we're out of position and this hand is a little bit flimsy, so I think it's on the edge, but I think it's an option certainly worth considering. Against like weaker and spurier recreationals, I actually would just 3-bet always, trying to play a big pot, not carrying them out of position.
Yep, so I heavily lean raise here in these spots normally. SPR can become an issue because as we get shallower and shallower, we face jam more often from hands that we would really like to realize against, like overpairs, but I still think that this is going to be outrageously overdone, this sizing. It's going to be way too many combos c-betting. You have a GTO raise anyway, and probably you're just doing better than you should be with raise here. So I think raise is good.
I agree.
Turn is really interesting. So certainly the only options here are block or check.
Yeah, I would just block for 1/3.
Yeah.
I think it outperforms check because Villain's hand has so many snap check back. Villain's range contains so many snap check backs that we can still get value from. Examples of the types of hands I'm thinking of were hands that are pairs and gut shots or strong second pairs. Ace 10, 10-9, 7-8, stuff like that.
And this is button, if we're against UTG, it might be another thing, but like against button, there's just a lot of like random 10x in there that's offsuit and stuff like that. So yeah, I think block outperforms check.
Are there any parts of range that justify a big bet in this spot? Like ace jack, for example?
Yeah, I mean, if you have enough equity to big bet, you big bet. Don't let your range control you like some kind of arbitrary puppet master. Like, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Okay, cool.
So if you have ace jack and you think ace jack is coming in at like a heap of equity and villain's range is mergy and drawy and pair plus drawy and you feel like you can deny and clean and value with a big bet. Yep.
All right, nice.
Yeah, like our range contains the nuts. Now, so does villain's range, which means that the theory behind the spot is going to say that we can't just go in arbitrarily large sizing necessarily, but yeah, when your range contains the nuts, you can usually bet big, unless there's some weird blocker thing going on, like you're on a board like ace 2 or something and you're c-betting the flop or
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, so one of the aforementioned small sizes.
Good. Nice. I'm glad we found this. A lot of players would snap check.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to understand that when you're against that mergy range, like just value betting. Like, I always say this to my students. If you think there's a decent chance villain is under bluffing if you check and you can value bet out of position, then just value bet. Thing is, if we block and villain has like king jack, let's just say, randomly like king jack of hearts, villain might actually just call our block, but if we check, they might bet like 80% pot to try and protect equity or something, and that just sucks for us, like when that happens. So block has other hidden benefits as well, besides the primary one of just value betting. Our hand just seems like this is check territory now, I guess. The only line that's not check that could be considered is tiny block, I guess.
I wouldn't even bother thinking about a tiny block. I would just check for sure, just praying to showdown.
Yep, I agree. In game, I'm not sure what I was thinking here. Out of game, I think this is very underbluffed. I think they've filtered a lot by calling a flop check raise and calling a turn. And then the queen also reduces potential bluffs as well. This is a rec as well, so they're not going to be turning like pairs into bluffs often enough at all for us to make the... We don't need to win very often, but I don't think we're hitting that target.
Double filtering is just lethal in the combination with like remaining air disappearing. Like if you had to make an illustration on like the poker manual for an underbluff spot, this is kind of like the picture in the how to build it manual. It's like, this is what it fucking looks like. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's interesting. So you were very clear on the fact that like this was a fold when this spot came up there, but in game you've called. So this is where we maybe have a quick little meander down in the mental game gardens and say like, okay, what was happening there? What weeds were growing? What thorns were prickling?
It may be as simple as I saw a half pot bet from a fish, and I thought I'm not supposed to fold to that because they can do weird things.
Yep. So what we're doing there is that we're using a vague principle, and it's what I call a half-baked thought process, where like an echo of a thought jumps out at us, and we use that when we haven't carefully deliberated the action sequence. Like, action sequence is always primary. Like, this is part of the action sequence, but the action sequence that encompasses this node is the flop, the turn, and also the river. And just compare that to like check, 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 check half pot, which is just like lol, I call everything, and then like check, bet, raise, call, bet, call, check, half pot. It's just so different. Also, fish sized an absolute big blind value sometimes, so like this might be a big bet in Villain's head here because the pot's bigger. The bigger the pot, the less that half pot sizing thing is actually usable. In small pots, it's extremely accurate because they're like literally betting like $1. In big pots like this, sometimes they don't understand how big a bet they're making, right? So it's a bit less reliable. Right, pocket jacks, min click to 5. Guess the first question is, do we ever want to 4-bet this hand? What do we think of this min sizing?
It depends, I think, for me, almost entirely on Villain's 3-bet stat.
It is 0 over 81 hands.
Oh yeah, just call then.
Yeah.
They are 34-3-0 over 81 hands.
Oh,
so
definitely just call. Okay,
yep.
yes, aces. Try and hit jack.
Or
2.
Is that enough jacks?
That's probably enough jacks, yeah. Probably better than hitting only 1, actually, because you can't lose now. I'm happy with 2 jacks. Yeah, I'm happy with 4 jacks with the 7 kicker. That's a good hand.
We'll take it.
I'm not sure about what I did on any street in this hand.
Did he check the flop? No, he bet small. He bet so small. Well, I guess the best line's probably call, because, or very small raise, because we need to keep, this sounds really fishy, right? But we need to keep ace king in, because it is literally an enormous part of this range right now, and if it does hit an ace or a king, we're going to play for stacks. So raising big here is out of the question, in my opinion. Yeah,
I probably would have called. Yeah, I probably would have called.
I think that's fair. Oh, come on.
That is an unreal turn.
Come on. Okay, now I'm probably just raising. Like, this is enough now. Like, we need to start putting money in case this guy just has aces and has no clue how to value bet. This could easily just be aces or ace king still. I'm just going like 20 jam river, like, or 18 jam river or something now.
Yeah.
No, I don't like this. This is too.
Yeah.
We can't keep the pot
so it's,
at
so
this
it's now
level.
urgent to raise at
it's
this point.
super urgent by turn. Like on flop, okay, you've got 2 more streets. You can do what you want. You can bet if checked. You can raise if bet small at. You can let him bet big. You can let him catch up. But now it's like night and day. The urgency like flips on its head here, I would say.
Sure.
Guys, what does this guy have? Chat, what does this dude have? I want you to put this guy on a hand, and we're going to see if we get it right. I haven't seen this. Luke has probably seen this and knows, but Alex and I haven't, so we're all going to guess together.
Before we do proceed to see the result, what size would you guys go on river here?
Well, I'm just hoping he has queens. I'm just going to go big. Or tens. I'm just going to go like pot, probably. I mean, I wonder about jam, but I feel like he just doesn't have ace-king here very often. But if he does have aces or ace-king, I want to have gone fucking huge. I'm going at least pot here, I think.
Do you think by betting pot, you get called 4 times as often as if you jam?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I feel like if he has queens, he's going to call pot 60% of the time, 50% of the time, and I think he's going to call jam like less than 10% of the time, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then again, he could have aces or ace-king, and if that's the case, then it's closer. But he may fold ace-king to all-in as well, sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I would expect most people to fold ace-king to all-in here.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, let's go big. Oh, you went all-in. I mean, like, there is sometimes just a node where this guy has aces and this works, but I don't think it's the right play. It doesn't seem right.
Makes
Alex?
sense.
Yeah, I like going pot. Although I don't know if I agree with your breakdown that like a rack is mostly calling queens and tens to pot. I think they're mostly folding that, and then you're hoping he randomly has like a king or something.
Well, then we should size up, right?
I'm not sure. I think that after recreational has just like basically min bet flop and turn, they're signaling a lot that they don't really like their hand and they are going to pitch it a decent amount. Wait, you went all in. Fuck, it means they're not going to get to see what he had.
No,
yeah.
He folded. I'm sorry, guys. I should have like checked to see if we were actually going to see a showdown there before I gave that quiz. We're never going to get an answer. It just ruined your day, everyone's day.
That was actually like really cruel.
I didn't mean it.
Winner.
Luke, you betrayed us there. You should have told us we weren't going to see before we went down the rabbit hole.
I wanted to hear what you guys would do on the river, and I didn't want to spoil it by.
Yeah, fair enough. Not wanting to spoil is tough to
But
balance.
yeah, I probably should have given you a heads up before you ran a quiz that we will never know.
Before
the answer
chat began to
I'm genuinely so disappointed right now.
This is the worst day ever in Garrett Corner history. Oh, his cards are on. Right, guys, guess what villain had here? 2.5 call with 9-7. Bad call. Bad. Oh, he flopped well, though. Now with 9-7. Okay, we've shown it now. We may as well do this cards up. Let's do this, like, WSOP commentary. Luke's gone for the big bet here. What's he representing? It's not clear to me, Joe. 9-7 of hearts in a great spot. He's almost got the check mark, you could say. Yeah, it's really unclear what he's repping here. That's what they say when the guy bluffs. Just in every spot. I think I'd go small on flop or check. I don't really like a big bet with this hand. I just think it's wasteful. I don't think there's any hands. Like, think about your opponent's range here. In small blind. Like, what hand is big bet, like, causing a spike in fold equity against here? Is this not just, like, quite inelastic? Like, you see what I'm saying, Luke? Like, who cares what a fucking solver says here? Like, what is this bet doing against the small blind range? Is it not just wasteful? It's a very low equity hand.
Yeah, that does make sense.
I'm being kind of harsh.
This might be a little bit. This might be a little bit feels over reels. I just feel like I always get called when I bet small here.
No, you don't.
And I don't want to get called. Yeah, sure.
Well, check is okay. If you feel like you always get called with like most sizes because the board is just really good for a small blind range, then just check a bad hand. Like, that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't have to see bet. I know the rule is normally against recreational players we see bet our bad hands because they lead turn too much, but this hand is really bad. Like, wheel ace on 3 medium is really, really bad, even with a backdoor. I mean, it looks worse when you can see villains' cards sometimes.
Ugh.
But yeah, like, so you take this one.
Okay. We're against a recreational, and the turn card has just improved a massive portion of his range in absolute hand strength. So even though 2 pair is not supposed to be a very strong hand here, recreationals aren't going to know that as much as they should.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact that they've just turned a jack or a 6 because those hands are connected to a lot of the flop calling range in such a strong way. I'm not enjoying this bluff spot at all.
I would say that this is a case of investment spew.
What is investment spew?
That's a new one.
Putting in money in a spot where it's bad to put in money. Basically, like when you don't have to. So like betting or raising with a hand that doesn't warrant a better raise either as a good bluff or a good value bet, effectively. So it could be a polarization error, but I tend to give that the polarization error label. So I guess investment spew is all of those investments that aren't polarization errors. So they're bet generally like when you raised a bad hand in a spot that it's not good to raise a bad hand, or bet a bad hand in a spot that's not good to bet a bad hand, basically. So in game, I don't know what your thought process is in game here, Luke, but whatever it is, I think there's a massive stride that you can make here by fixing it. Because I think it's like probably quite destructive, whatever it is here. So let me just ask you that quickly.
This board looks scary, so they might fold a lot.
There we go. So we've been too vague. We've just taken one feature. So I think your biggest leak is taking one thought and deeming that thought sufficient for an action when it's not. And I think that's the thing we work on procedurally. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with your level. I do think that like it's a bit rough around the edges and you are making some mistakes that are like probably eating away at your win rate, like more than we would like, but I think they're very fixable. And your general understanding of the game, both theoretically and exploitatively, is good. And your ability to override GTO concerns with exploitative concerns, despite having gone through CPS. You know, sometimes that theory blinds people for a while before they process it fully, but it sounds like you have processed it fully. And I think the reason you've done that is that you said you took notes as you went through the course. And I think that's been immensely helpful, and you did it absolutely the right thing, and you've avoided a trap that many people fall into. I don't know what your current win rate is or whatever, or results are, but if you fix this getting temporarily blinded by one thought that's not the full picture thing, I do think that you'll beat this game like really easily. The river is the spot you should bluff, though, by the way. Because they're going to lead a queen.
Oh yeah, river is a completely mandatory bluff.
Wait, I did wonder if we're trying to bluff them off a chop here.
Well, I wouldn't even put it that way. I would just say you're almost never losing because a queen is going to lead the river at a really high frequency here. They're not going to be able to help themselves. So you are chopping here all the time, and if you find a big enough bet size, fish fold a lot more here than you would expect because they don't want to feel silly, like they're being, towned by a queen here. So if you go 36 or 40 or whatever, that's about the right size, and you don't want to go all in. That's extremely wasteful against the queen. But you don't want to go so small that they can effortlessly call. You want to put them to the cost here and understand that they've not range checked procedurally here. Yeah. So I'm glad we got to this hand because this is the first hand that we can say you've butchered, but you made some mistakes. You've not butchered any hands until this one, but this one illustrates like two key concepts right, one after the other. All right, guys, we're out of here. Thanks again, Alex. That was really helpful. Great having you on as always. We'll do it again soon. We'll do a YouTube video soon with the 5 worst poker thoughts. And thank you to you as well. Luke, that was great and well done.
Yep, thank you again.